My half-sister and I reincarnated simultaneously. Yet our bodies were swapped. She became the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's household. I, however, became the illegitimate daughter raised outside the estate. After a rebirth, to drive me from the estate, she harmed herself and framed me. She shattered the Imperial Nine-Dragon Cup and pinned the blame on me. She swapped my grandmother's soup and framed me for it. Yet I emerged unscathed. Panic seized her. She assumed I'd be despised and rejected like her in my past life. But she forgot, status is merely a shell. What she couldn't defeat was me, the person I am. My father was the widely praised chancellor. And I was his illegitimate daughter born to a concubine. My first visit to the chancellor's residence was when my father wished to have me recognized as his legitimate daughter. But grandmother, leaning on her cane, raised it to strike him. My granddaughter is Shan Yu alone. I will not acknowledge this bastard child. I watched the woman beside grandmother, smiling and seemingly my age. That was Guan Shan Yu, the legitimate daughter of the chancellor's household. She raised her eyebrows at me, her eyes brimming with the smug delight of a petty victor. This scene was one I had witnessed before. Back then, the illegitimate daughter refused acceptance. She threw a tantrum, threatening, "If you won't let me return to the mansion, I'll make the entire capital know that the concubine of the Guan family is the daughter of a convicted minister. We'll both go down together." To secure the title of second young lady of the Prime Minister's mansion, she was willing to expose her mother's secret. Grandmother, with no other choice to protect the family, had to agree. But from that day on, she severed all ties with this granddaughter. Guan Shan Yu watched me, her eyes brimming with anticipation. She was waiting for me to throw a fit, hoping father and grandmother would both despise me. Instead, I curtsied gracefully and said softly, "If Baiyun could find a place to stay in the mansion and fulfill her filial duties to grandmother and father, she would be overjoyed. If not, Baiyun will return to the outer residence. I only ask that grandmother not let anger harm her health, nor quarrel with father and damage their bond." I knew grandmother well. She appeared stern, yet her heart softened easily. Sure enough, her expression eased slightly. This tactic of retreating to advance forced grandmother to yield to father's wishes and allow me to stay. "You may stay," she said. "But understand this, within this household, Shan Yu is the legitimate daughter." I hastened to kneel and bow in gratitude. Baiyun dares not presume to be equal to the eldest daughter. Henceforth, I shall honor and cherish my elder sister. The courtyard father arranged for me lay close to grandmother's Rongha hall, furnished and appointed exactly as befits a legitimate daughter. Upon hearing this, Guan Shan Yu stormed over to confront me. "You're merely a concubine's daughter, one raised outside the main residence. Disgraceful and vulgar. How dare you demand the same treatment as a legitimate daughter?" I replied calmly, "After all these years, you remain the most self-aware person I've ever met." Guan Shanyue's anger flared, but she quickly regained her composure. You. I smiled and finished her sentence. "I've been reborn too. Only now, our souls have switched places. Sorry to spoil the show you were hoping to watch. Did you think I'd repeat your past mistakes, cause a scene only to end up in the most remote courtyard? Baiyun, even if I've lived this life twice, even if you've taken my identity, you'll never win over me. Never. Ever." The concubine-born sister before me now flushed crimson. She'd always fixated on our birth status difference. Now, with my identity, she thought she'd finally surpassed me, only to find I looked down on her. Rage consumed her. She raised her hand and struck my face. The sharp crack of the slap echoed through the small courtyard. The image of a noble lady I'd maintained for over a decade shattered under her blow. Squabbles among noble sisters were commonplace, but resorting to violence was the act of a shrew. I promptly clutched my face and collapsed to the ground. Maids and servants rushed about in chaos, swiftly summoning father and grandmother. Seeing the commotion, grandmother, protective of her granddaughter, opened her mouth to speak, only for me to cut her off. Disturbing grandmother and father late at night is entirely Biyun's fault. My eldest sister was merely showing concern for Biyun. During our sisterly exchange, Biyun accidentally stumbled and fell. It was my own carelessness, not my sister's fault. Seeing my swollen cheek, everyone understood I was shielding the so-called legitimate daughter. Most people were fickle. Those who had looked down on me before now saw me as a pitiful little white flower, bullied yet too timid to speak up. Grandmother took my younger half-sister away, instructing her attendant to personally apply medicine to my wounds before leaving. Father, seeking to soothe me, sent numerous precious tonics. Biyun, she thought changing her status would let her win over me. But this is only the beginning. I will slowly reclaim everything that is mine. In my past life, not long after mother passed, father brought Biyun into the household. Though merely a concubine's daughter and unpopular with the household, Biyun insisted on flaunting the arrogance of a minister's daughter. She vied for attention with the noble ladies, fought over actors, and became the subject of whispers throughout the capital. She cared not a whit, consumed only by competing with me. Everything became a contest. I remembered she'd been raised outside the mansion and showed her considerable kindness. Yet she saw only the distinction between legitimate and concubine-born children. To outdo me, she demanded father show no favoritism, insisting her food, clothing, and possessions be identical to mine. That spring banquet, the Empress bestowed a pair of white jade bracelets upon me. Upon returning home, she threw a tantrum demanding the same. Father, enraged, struck her for the first time. What power do I have to beg for one for you? She paid no heed, sneaking into my courtyard and smashing the bracelets when no one was looking. Grandmother had no choice but to take me to the palace to beg the Empress for forgiveness. Grandmother urged father to discipline her more strictly, reasoning that with the prestige of the Prime Minister's household, she could still marry well someday. Yet she harbored resentment, eventually poisoning grandmother to death. After grandmother's death, she grew even more reckless. To steal my betrothed, she conspired with her own mother, concubine Zhao, drugged me unconscious, and sold me to a peasant family whose son was mentally impaired. But she didn't expect me to escape. To stop me from returning to the mansion, Biyun intercepted me midway. During our confrontation, I uncovered the truth of her murder of grandmother. In the struggle, we both fell off a cliff. When I awoke, I was seated on the carriage returning to the mansion. I had become Biyun. Though my identity had changed, I was profoundly grateful to heaven for granting me a second life, a chance to exact revenge and properly protect grandmother. This day, as I went to pay my respects to grandmother, I encountered my younger half-sister heading to the same Rongha hall. Do you think grandmother will still cherish you as before? Alas, you are now the concubine-born daughter she despises. She dotes only on me. With a single word from me, you could be cast out. Don't delude yourself into thinking revealing the truth to her will help you. The world will only deem you mad, no one will believe you. I calculated the days, the moment was approaching. So I feigned anxiety, wringing my handkerchief tightly and remaining silent. Seeing this, my half-sister beamed with satisfaction. Understand this, once you step beyond the gates of the Prime Minister's residence, your life will be 100 times harder than it is now. Noticing my lowered gaze, she assumed her threat had worked and promptly made her demand, write me several poems tomorrow. I suppressed a smile and nodded cautiously. Sure enough, my hunch proved right, she wouldn't let this chance slip. In my past life, around this time, the Yongnan Marquis' mansion hosted a poetry gathering. I won first prize, and the Marquis' wife took an instant liking to me. The very next day, she came to the Prime Minister's residence to propose marriage. A match made in heaven, equal in status. Handsome groom and beautiful bride. Everyone thought it was a perfect pairing. But now I know the truth, the young and Marquis heir, Meng Tingyu, is no worthy husband. He isn't the refined scholar he appears to be. Deep down, he's reckless and unrestrained, a master of flirting and seduction. Before our marriage, he already had several mistresses, one of whom was even pregnant. In my past life, unaware of this, I treated him as my husband and dreamed of a lifetime together. But later, I discovered he never truly valued me. He knew Biyun deliberately seduced him to compete with me. Yet he never refused her advances. When Biyun got into arguments with others, he always backed her up. When Biyun craved fresh fish, he ordered it rushed back to the capital by fast horse. He understood every fall Biyun took was staged. Yet he still helped her up. Biyun's beauty made countless young nobles covet her. Yet she set her heart solely on Meng Tingyu. This gave him immense prestige among men. So even when I solemnly told him, "I dislike how close you are to Biyun," he only replied, "She is your sister. I treat her as such. How can your heart be so narrow?" Humph. A man like that? I don't want him. If my half-sister wanted it, then so be it. So. My half-sister memorized the poem I wrote, went to the Marquis's residence with glee, won first place, and as she wished, awaited the marriage proposal from the Marquis's household. On the day the Marquis's household came to propose, perhaps fearing I would do as I did in my past life, intentionally going to the front hall to gain Meng Tingyu's attention, my half-sister had me locked in the courtyard. But in my past life, I followed every rule and etiquette to the letter. Yet it brought me no good. This time around, I just want to live freely. Rules and propriety? They can all go to hell. I had the maids build me a human ladder and climbed over the wall. I watched my half-sister, her face flushed with coyness, trying desperately to mimic my every word and gesture from my past life. Truthfully, even if she behaved improperly today, it wouldn't affect this marriage. For the future mistress of the Marquis's household, reputation and family standing matter most. Father was likely conversing with the Marquis in the front hall, leaving my younger sister to accompany Meng Tingyu through the garden. I waited nearby, bamboo basket in hand, biding my time. As they approached, I turned, looked up, and smiled. Meng Tingyu and my younger sister froze instantly. "What are you doing here?" my sister snapped. Startled, I spun around and fled, clutching the bamboo basket. Meng Tingyu's reaction was exactly as I'd anticipated. He was utterly captivated by Biyun's enchanting, bewitching face. Whatever my sister said afterward, I knew only my face would linger in his mind. Of course, my half-sister would never share any news about me with him. But the more unattainable something is, the more it haunts one's thoughts. Grandmother, you must rein in that loose woman Biyun. To see Meng Tingyu, she actually went out of her way to the garden. What kind of impression does that give? My half-sister stormed into Ronghe Hall, only to find me feeding grandmother her medicine. It's all right. Biyun explained everything to me. She discovered medicinal herbs in the garden, gathered them, had the pharmacy grind them, and sent them for my medicine. With her herbs added, the decoction isn't so bitter anymore. Grandmother, you know how much you value Meng Tingyu, but you shouldn't speak ill of your own sister. Grandmother's words served two purposes. First, to defend me. Second, since I am a member of the Guan family, rumors of sisters quarreling would not benefit the family. Despite grandmother's words, my half-sister, knowing of the entanglement between Biyun and Meng Tingyu in my past life, remained deeply concerned. Grandmother, you always cherished me most. Yet since she arrived, you've defended her at every turn. Am I no longer your favorite granddaughter? If you favor Biyun so much, Perhaps I should simply cede the heir's position to her. Saying this, the younger sister clung to grandmother's arm, her face wet with tears of grievance. Seeing grandmother's softening heart, I rose and grabbed a pair of scissors. Weeping bitterly, ever since entering this household, Biyun has only wished to serve grandmother faithfully, to make up for the years she was absent. If she has caused discord between my elder sister and the crown prince, Biyun would willingly shave her head and become a nun. As I spoke, I raised the scissors to my hair, only to be stopped by the maids and servants. Sitting on the ground, I covered my face and wailed, I know I'm of lowly birth, born to a concubine, but I am still a daughter of the Guan family. To have my honor so cruelly trampled upon, I'd rather die. My sobs were heartfelt, wrenching my very soul until I fainted. Carried back in a sedan chair, I collapsed in the courtyard. After this fiasco, Meng Tingyu spared no effort to inquire about me. Father harbored growing resentment toward Guan Shanyu, his legitimate daughter, while grandmother gained a new, confrontational understanding of this once docile granddaughter. Most crucially, everyone now knew I possessed a fiery temperament. Though Biyun possessed a stunning beauty, her character was as serene as still water. After all, I had no certainty whether I could return to my original life in this lifetime. If I couldn't, I had to ensure Biyun's image was well maintained. After recuperating for several days, I went to assist grandmother with her medicine. Prepare some dragonbeard candy, grandmother dislikes bitterness and favors sweetness. I instructed the maids to make it ready. Grandmother pondered this for a moment. Though after rebirth, Biyun had also learned to personally attend to grandmother's medicine each day as I once did. But she didn't know that while grandmother presented herself as a dignified matriarch to outsiders, her temperament had grown increasingly childlike. She always dithered over her medicine, refusing to take it because she disliked the bitterness. Each time, I had to coax her relentlessly, finally bribing her with candy before she'd take it. Grandmother always teased, "My dear granddaughter, you're spoiling me into an old child." This was our secret, known to no one else. Grandmother, here, take your medicine. I lifted the bowl to feed her. She looked up at me. It seems you truly are one of the Guan family. How else would you know my temper when it comes to medicine? I smiled, yes. I'm your own flesh and blood granddaughter. Of course we're in tune. After that, grandmother and I grew much closer, though my half-sister kept a strict watch daily, denying me any chance to meet Meng Tingyu. She couldn't stop him from visiting the Prime Minister's residence every other day just to see me. One day, unable to avoid him any longer, I slipped out of the mansion to a bookstore I frequented in my past life, Green Bamboo Pavilion. Most of the books in Green Bamboo Pavilion belonged to the proprietor, Gu Yuanshan, and were for browsing only. The courtyard featured several elegant seating areas partitioned by green bamboo walls, perfect for sipping tea, reading, or resting. Gu Yuanshan and I had shared a fairly close friendship in the past. He always sent gifts to his regular patrons during festivals and holidays. He never distinguished between the high and low in his dealings with people. Nobles and officials could enter his library, but so could beggars and farmers. But today, I was thrown out. This establishment does not serve booksellers or Guanbiyun. I stood before the library door, utterly bewildered. Why? Gu Yuanshan stared at me, his gaze icy, as if I were an enemy from a past life, a person of low character, ruthless, and disregarding kinship ties, someone who would defile his library. His glare frightened me, and I had no choice but to leave. On the way back, I pondered, whatever the reason, Gu Yuanshan clearly harbors grievances against my half-sister. Perhaps he could become my ally. Upon returning, I wrote him a letter in Guan Shanyue's name, inviting him to a tea gathering at the Prime Minister's residence. I mentioned that my half-sister, Bai Yun, also greatly admired him. Soon, I received a reply. Honored by your esteem, I dare offer this counsel: keep your distance from your half-sister. She is a venomous woman who will surely endanger your life. Your betrothed, too, is no virtuous man. I urge you to reconsider. I read and reread this letter countless times. A thought suddenly struck me: Gu Yuanshan must have seen my past life. I arranged to meet Gu Yuanshan in a private room at the tea house. He arrived as promised. But upon opening the door and seeing Biyun, he turned to leave. I hurriedly stopped him. Sir, please wait. This letter was written for you. With that, I picked up the brush and wrote a few words. Gu Yuanshan had often composed poetry with me in the library. He recognized my handwriting. How could you? He froze in place. Sir, have you ever seen Guanshan use fate after that? Did you know she would be sold and end her life by falling off a cliff? I asked directly. Gu Yuanshan stared at me, his face filled with shock. Sir, I am Guanshan Yu. It's hard to believe, but now I'm trapped inside Bai Yun's body. Gu Yuanshan stumbled and sat down on the mat, his forehead covered in beads of sweat. It took him a long time to recover. When he looked up at me again, his face was streaked with tears. When you fell off the mountain, those sharp rocks must have cut your face. It must have hurt terribly, right? Sitting beside him, I saw a flicker of heartache in his eyes. I don't remember, I replied softly. It hurt at first, but soon I felt nothing. After that, I simply forgot. Hearing this, Gu Yuanshan buried his face in his hands and wept aloud. It's my fault. It's my fault. I couldn't save you. He cried for a long time, like a child finally allowed to release pent-up emotions. I sat quietly beside him, gently patting his back to comfort him. After his tears subsided, Gu Yuanshan choked out, You hadn't been to the library in ages. I bribed a servant at your residence and learned your grandmother had passed away. But the funeral was kept secret. Something felt off. So I kept watch outside the Prime Minister's residence every day. Then, that day, I saw Biyun leaving in a carriage. I followed and witnessed her trying to sell you off. I rushed after her, but watched helplessly as you fell off the cliff. Without a second thought, I jumped after you. The sharp rocks at the cliff's edge tore my clothes and ripped my face, the pain piercing my heart. In that moment, I thought, how could a girl so pampered endure such agony? When I awoke, I was in the library, rushing to the Prime Minister's residence. I learned his illegitimate daughter had been brought back. Seeing this usually aloof and taciturn person before me, now with reddened eyes, weeping uncontrollably, my heart ached. Thankfully, I'm back. The master is back too. Only, I never knew how the master felt about me. I couldn't continue. Upon reflection, I realized that in the library, any book I desired could be taken home. Each time I visited, he would reserve my favorite spot for me. On my birthday every year, he would meticulously select rare editions I cherished, pairing them with my beloved crabapple blossoms as gifts. Yet I had always believed that after Mother's passing, Grandmother was the only one in this world who truly cared for me. Little did I know, there was also him. Gu Yuanshan looked at me, suddenly flustered. Please don't misunderstand. Young lady, I only speak these words to assure you, do not fear. I know you have reincarnated, and I will only aid you, never harm you. Following you to live this life anew is my own choice. I would never use this to coerce you into feeling affection for me. Simply treat me as you always have, as a friend. I know, you are the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's household, while I am but a bookseller. How could I ever be worthy of you? Yet the moment you fell from that cliff, I thought, without you, I could never live. I ask for nothing else. Only that in this life, you find happiness and peace, and that I may protect you well. I never dreamed of possessing the kind of love found in storybooks, the kind that transcends life and death. I know I will eventually marry into a family of equal standing to the Prime Minister's, becoming a proper, dignified matriarch who manages the household well. When people speak of me, they will praise the Guan family for raising their daughters well. Therefore, I only ask to live with my husband in mutual respect. Now, after hearing Gu Yuanshan's words, I feel warmth in my heart, my ears burning, my head spinning. Those emotions I've worked so hard to suppress seem impossible to hold back any longer. Only now do I slowly recall why I often visited the green bamboo pavilion. That winter, after a snowfall, the cold was particularly biting. Sitting in my carriage, I saw a young boy begging on the street, clad only in thin clothes and worn-out shoes. My heart ached, and I stepped out to give him some silver. I happened upon Gu Yuanshan, who remarked, as a young lady of noble birth, "You are willing to step through the mud after the snow to help a beggar boy, unconcerned about soiling your skirt. That should be his good fortune." Yet, he added, a momentary gift of silver could never truly help him in the long run. Now that he had both arms and legs, he was fully capable of supporting himself. "I run a library," Gu Yushan continued, "and I'm in need of a young attendant to sweep and tidy. From now on, he can earn his keep through honest labor, enough to eat, clothe himself, sleep well, and even receive wages." I followed him to the library and discovered that all the young attendants and laborers there were children he had brought in from the streets, homeless and abandoned. Half the library's income went toward aiding the destitute. From then on, I often visited the green bamboo pavilion. Sitting amidst the verdant bamboo, I watched Gu Yuanshan teach the children to read, saw him meticulously organize books, and observed him creating ink splashes on the white walls. Especially after Biyun entered the Prime Minister's residence, my visits to the library grew more frequent. No matter how troubled I felt before arriving, stepping through that door, seeing the clusters of green bamboo, seeing Gu Yuanshan, my heart would settle. It turned out I had long harbored feelings for him. I recall after my betrothal in my past life, he once smiled as he gifted me several rare volumes. "Hearing of your betrothal, this is my humble gift. May you always find joy and lasting peace." Back then, I never imagined he was enduring heartache and reluctance while presenting these congratulatory gifts. But, I let out a soft sigh. Now, burdened by a blood feud, how could I possibly spare a thought for romantic entanglements? I didn't know how to respond to Gu Yuanshan's intense, passionate feelings, so I fled in panic, staying within the mansion every day without going out. Coincidentally, during these days, my younger half-sister spent every day with Meng Tingyu, which gave me the chance to spend time with my grandmother. I accompanied her for meals every day, helped her take her medicine, and walked with her in the garden. Soon, she began to depend on me. "Watching you each day, you seem like my own flesh and blood granddaughter. A single gesture from me, and you know exactly what I need," grandmother said, smiling as she held my hand. I leaned into her embrace. "I am your own granddaughter. I only wish to stay by your side for the rest of my life. Grandmother, please eat well and take your medicine diligently. Live 100 years. As I spoke, tears welled up, and I quickly buried my face to hide them. Just then, my younger half-sister arrived at Ronghe Hall. Seeing this, she sneered, "No matter how hard you try, I remain grandmother's only true granddaughter." Hearing this, grandmother's expression darkened. She gently patted my back to soothe me. "You are both dear children to my heart." My half-sister rolled her eyes, carrying a food box forward. "Grandmother, this is for you. From that new pastry shop on South Street, their almond cookies are the best." She opened the box herself, waiting for everyone to praise her filial devotion. But the maidservants beside grandmother looked grim. The old lady never eats almond cookies. They make her swell up and struggle to breathe. My younger sister froze in shock. In my past life, I hated grandmother so intensely that I never paid attention to what she couldn't eat. Never mind, grandmother said, her disappointment evident. Perhaps you've been too busy preparing for your wedding. Go rest now. Biyun will keep me company. My younger sister withdrew, her face sour. I tucked away the almond pastry and soothed grandmother. Don't be upset, Grandma. Eldest sister has been exhausted lately. She didn't mean any harm. Tomorrow, your granddaughter will buy some osmanthus sugar cakes for you. Osmanthus sugar cakes were grandmother's favorite pastry. Only then did joy return to her eyes. Good. You're always so thoughtful. I suspected that after these incidents, doubt had already taken root in grandmother's heart. Later, I encountered my half-sister several times within the manor. Her gaze was filled with hatred, and I knew the time had come to deepen her resentment toward me. The most crucial catalyst would be Meng Tingyu. But I wouldn't act like her, I would make Meng Tingyu take the initiative. These days, besides tending to grandmother, I spent my time at the Green Bamboo Pavilion, sipping tea and reading books. After several visits, Gu Yuanshan came to find me. His expression displeased. Meng Tingyu is here. He seems to be looking for you. Shall I let him in? I smiled, of course. I'm here waiting for him. Gu Yuanshan's expression shifted slightly, even knowing he keeps numerous mistresses and frequents places of ill repute. You still like him? Watching Gu Yuanshan's awkwardness, I suddenly understood. This was probably what the storybooks call jealousy. For some reason, ever since he confessed his feelings last time, I'd been determined to avoid any misunderstandings in his presence. So I hurried to explain, no. I never liked him, not in my past life. Nor in this one. In my past life, I obeyed my parents' wishes to marry into a prestigious family and become their matriarch. In this life, it's for revenge. You know, my death in the past life stemmed from Biyun trying to steal Meng Tingyu's marriage. Gu Yuanshan's icy glare melted instantly at my explanation. He smiled. So Meng Tingyu is the trigger that exposed Biyun's true colors. I nodded with a smile. Talking to a smart person was so much easier. Very well. I understand. Soon after, Meng Tingyu entered. I overheard him inquiring about me to Gu Yuanshan, who gestured toward the courtyard. The Guan family's daughter is over there. But only regular patrons may sit in that section. Meng Tingyu waved his hand and handed Gu Yuanshan a gold ingot. Is this enough? Gu Yuanshan beamed. More than enough. More than enough. Meng Tingyu chose the private room next to mine. Does the young lady frequent this place often? It's quiet here, I replied softly. Earlier, when I inquired about you with the proprietor, he showed me your calligraphy. Truly the work of a master. I never imagined the young lady not only possesses the beauty of Shishir but also the literary talent of Xie Daoyun. I sneered inwardly. That mouth of his sure knows how to flatter. No wonder so many women willingly become his mistresses. Yet aloud I smiled. Your Highness flatters me. I'm merely a concubine's daughter, bullied by everyone at home. I come here just for peace and quiet. Simply living well is hard enough. How could I compare to Shishir or Xie Daoyun? Men like Meng Tingyu often misjudge themselves due to their privileged backgrounds, believing their personal worth matches their family's prestige. They even assume this prestige grants them the right to protect all vulnerable women. Thus, he lifted the bamboo curtain and entered my private room. If you have troubles on your mind, little sister, feel free to tell me. Just think of me as your elder brother. To be honest, from the moment I first saw you, I wanted to protect you. I feigned alarm, Your Highness. Please don't stand so close. If my elder sister finds out, she won't let me off lightly. Last time, She already reported me to grandmother. Just then, my younger sister's cold voice cut through the air, told grandmother what? Now that you're close to her, you've grown bold, daring to cling to the crown prince like this. Don't you remember who it is that lets you live in the Marquis's mansion? Some truths, however hard you refuse to accept them, remain undeniable. I am Guan Shanyu, the legitimate daughter, while you are merely Bai Yun, the concubine's daughter. In anyone's eyes, you fall short of me. My half-sister was still using my place in the Marquis's household to threaten me, completely unaware she'd already fallen into my trap. Gu Yuanshan had deliberately sent word to her, ensuring she witnessed the scene. Sanyue, you're being too petty. Biyun is your sister. And naturally, she's my sister too. What's wrong with looking out for your own younger sister? Meng Tingyu spoke up for me. These words were all too familiar to the younger sister. She immediately grew agitated, about to erupt, but was stopped by Gu Yuanshan rushing over. If you wish to quarrel, please take it outside. Do not disturb the other guests. I seized the chance to leave Qingzhou Pavilion and return to the mansion. The younger sister was thoroughly enraged. Next, I only needed to wait for her to explode and leap into the trap herself. That evening, the Prime Minister's residence was bustling with activity. The legitimate daughter, Guan Shanyu, had her face scratched and her foot broken by the illegitimate daughter. The Ronghe Hall was ablaze with light. My younger sister clung to grandmother's embrace, weeping bitterly. Father stood nearby, furious, pointing at me as he shouted, I thought you were sensible. I brought you back to the mansion to raise you as a proper young lady. Yet you've learned these petty, vulgar tricks. Your elder sister's wedding is approaching, and you dare slash her face? I glanced up at grandmother. Though she coaxed the younger sister with affectionate darlings, suspicion flickered in her eyes. So I lowered my gaze, letting father's scolding wash over me. When he had finished, grandmother asked, why won't you defend yourself? I gave a bitter laugh. Father has already decided I'm the one who acted vile, jealous of my elder sister. Nothing I say now will change that. Grandmother sighed. I know you're proud. If you truly envied Shanyu, you wouldn't have avoided Meng Tingyu to avoid suspicion. Yet still came to me daily, serving this old woman her medicine, keeping me company with laughter and conversation. If there's any hidden truth, speak it freely. Hearing grandmother's words, I lowered my head, biting my lip to hold back tears. Father, learning from grandmother how my younger sister had stormed into Ronghe Hall that day, nearly forcing me to shave my head and become a nun, saw the anger on his face gradually turn to awkwardness. Grandmother, the proprietor of Qingzhou Pavilion seeks an audience. He says it concerns the second young lady. Grandmother ordered someone to bring Gu Yuanshan in. As soon as he entered, he presented a parcel. Technically, this is the Prime Minister's household affair, and I should not meddle. But upon hearing that someone was unjustly accusing the second young lady, I felt compelled to intervene. The steward opened the parcel to reveal several bound ancient texts. That day, the second young miss sought me out, entrusting me to procure these ancient texts. She personally restored them in the study each day, neglecting food and drink, laboring until the moon hung high in the sky. Tonight, I remember it clearly. Barely a stick of incense had burned since the second young miss left when word spread that she had struck the first young miss. The journey from the study to the Prime Minister's residence takes at least 2 sticks of incense. Thus, I could not help but meddle in this affair. Grandmother took the ancient texts. Her expression startled, but these books were the ones grandmother had long cherished. In her childhood, father would hold them close as he taught her to read and write, filling their pages with his own annotations. Yet father passed away too soon. She followed mother back to Liuzhou, marrying into the Guan family as a lowly bride. She supported her husband as he rose from a minor sixth-rank official to a second-rank minister, and nurtured their son into a chancellor. Yet she never forgot those cherished moments with her father. Only, those annotated books had vanished, their whereabouts unknown. Grandmother shared these secrets only when she held me close, teaching me to read and write. Only then did I speak. Grandmother, I know what weighs on your heart. These past days, I've visited the Green Bamboo Pavilion daily, determined to present this gift for your birthday. Upon returning to the estate today, I found chaos everywhere. Before I could even reach the inner courtyard, maids and servants rushed forward, bringing me straight to Rongha Hall. My half-sister had stopped crying, clinging tightly to grandmother's embrace. She had stationed guards at both front and back gates for days, yet never saw me leave the estate. What she never imagined was that, as a playful child, I had discovered a side gate long neglected and unguarded. Nor did she anticipate that Qingzhou Pavilion also possessed a highly concealed back entrance, within which lay 2 secret chambers Gu Yuanshan had reserved for me. Tonight, she deliberately visited my courtyard, provoking a fight between her maids and mine at the gate. Once the commotion grew loud enough, she went so far as to slash her own face and injure her foot to frame me, hoping to use this to expel me from the estate. Amidst the chaos, my maids and servants were all tangled up in the fray. Instinctively, everyone assumed I was involved too. Now that Gu Yuanshan has come forward to testify on my behalf, my half-sister's claims have lost all credibility. Yet she still wouldn't give up. Pointing at me, she shouted, "You liar! Father has already questioned the guards at the front, back, and side gates. None saw you leave the estate. Don't think colluding with this tutor to give false testimony will let you wriggle out of this." I replied calmly, "Yes." To surprise grandmother, I didn't use the front or back gates. I took the old, neglected wooden door by the lotus pond, one now hidden by vines. Unnoticed by all, I saw grandmother's eyes light up. "There is such a door. Shan Yu, didn't you sneak out through it to play when you were little? Don't you remember?" My half-sister responded awkwardly, "I remember now." But I could no longer hold back my tears. So, every time I snuck out of the estate, grandmother knew. Behind the strict rules for legitimate daughters, she had been fighting for that little bit of freedom for me, allowing me to go out and indulge in street snacks, to feel the bustling energy of the alleys and lanes, to be free from the constraints of etiquette and rules, to simply be myself for a little while. Today, Shan Yu is at fault. Grandmother understood that suddenly having a younger sister might make you uncomfortable, but you shouldn't have framed her to force her out of the estate. You certainly shouldn't have spread rumors to create a scandal. Now everyone knows the second Miss Guan is a troublemaker. How is Bai Yin supposed to live her life after this? Starting today, Shan Yu is confined to her quarters for half a month. After my half-sister's confinement, grandmother claimed illness and had me stay at Rongha Hall to keep her company. Late at night, when all were asleep, grandmother took my hand and asked softly, "My dear child, is there anything you wish to tell your grandmother?" Looking at her kind face, the grievances I'd held in all this time finally burst forth. But I was afraid. I feared she would be left alone in her old age. I feared that if my true identity were revealed, she might harm grandmother. I feared father would not believe me, for he was the one who held the power in this household. All this granddaughter ever wished for was grandmother's health and safety. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. I remembered how, as a child, I'd always fear thunder and lightning. It was grandmother who would hold me, tell me stories, and lull me to sleep. But now, I had no certainty I could keep grandmother safe. Adding to today's events, my half-sister was confined to her quarters. Though it achieved my goal, I feared she would only hate grandmother more. I had to act quickly. Before she can harm grandmother, I must make her utterly despised in father's eyes. so he will personally banish her. Granddaughter loves sleeping with grandmother, it feels so safe. Can granddaughter still keep her company like this? I asked obediently. Grandmother smiled through her tears, of course you can. From now on, you'll live in Rongha Hall. Though grandmother confined my half-sister. She was betrothed. A full fortnight's confinement would tarnish her reputation and undermine her future standing in her husband's family. Thus, 3 days later, she was released. Upon learning I would reside with grandmother, my half-sister flew into a rage. The calm she'd regained was instantly reignited by my words. Now rumors swirled that Guanshan had framed my sister, leading to her confinement, and that the Marquis's household intended to annul the betrothal. Naturally, I had Gu Yuanshan spread this rumor. Father was so enraged he began smashing things. I stepped forward to soothe him. Father, grandmother's birthday is approaching. Why not send an invitation to the Crown Prince to celebrate with us? That way, the rumors will dispel themselves. Only then did father realize his mistake. Smiling as he said, "You truly are the most considerate." So, on grandmother's birthday, Meng Tingyu arrived bearing gifts. Of course, Gu Yuanshan was also an honored guest. Grandmother was utterly delighted with the recovered ancient texts. Upon learning that Gu Yuanshan had gone to great lengths to retrieve them for me, she extended an invitation to him as well. During the banquet, Gu Yuanshan and I conversed with great ease. Seeing this, Meng Tingyu drank in silence, his mood visibly sour. My younger sister naturally noticed Meng Tingyu's demeanor. She feigned an apology to me. Sister was wrong to misunderstand you. With the Crown Prince here today, why don't we raise our cups together and put our differences behind us? To honor our guests and showcase the family's wealth, father had specially brought out the 9 dragon cups. These imperial gifts, 9 in total, each bore a jade-carved dragon coiled around its rim. Among all the court officials, only father possessed this treasure. My half-sister approached me with one of these 9 dragon cups to offer a toast. When I saw her stumble, I immediately moved closer to her. The wine in her hand spilled onto my face, and I fell backward onto the ground, reaching out to catch the cup. But I failed to grasp it. The crisp clatter of the jade shattering on the floor silenced everyone. Seeing this, I looked utterly terrified and cried out, "I know my sister dislikes me. But I am merely a concubine's daughter. Insignificant. If my sister wished to splash wine on me, she could have done so freely. Why must she use an imperial cup? Now, having accidentally broken it, how can I possibly bear the blame?" Everyone witnessed her raising her hand to splash me, saw me scrambling to catch the cup even as I stumbled, and heard my words. They all believed without doubt it was Guanshan Yu who sought to harm me. Father glared at her, but with guests present, he forced himself to suppress his anger. Take the second daughter back to change her clothes. The eldest daughter meant no harm today, it was merely a momentary slip. She will accompany me to the palace immediately to offer her apology. With a few words, the incident was dismissed as an accident, and her swift admission of guilt meant that even though the guests had witnessed the spectacle, they would be unlikely to spread it. On the surface, father handled the matter well, but in truth, he was utterly disappointed in her. For the sake of the greater good, however, he had to play the role of the benevolent father. His Majesty showed no blame, after all. The Guans had served as ministers for 2 generations, and such a small favor was granted. In fact, due to grandmother's birthday, many more gifts were bestowed. But before father could reprimand my younger sister, the time arrived for the elegant gathering at the Prime Minister's residence that had been arranged earlier. This time, no matter how my younger sister tried to blackmail me, I refused to write poetry for her. Thus, she made a complete fool of herself. She couldn't compose poetry, couldn't paint, couldn't play the zither, and couldn't even follow a theatrical performance. Finally, with no other option, she pretended to faint to escape the situation. Seeing Meng Tingyu shake his head in disappointment, I smiled brightly before the assembled guests and said, "My elder sister is unwell today. So I, her younger sister, shall step in and present a musical piece for your enjoyment. Over the years, I mastered music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, swiftly earning everyone's admiration. This concubine's daughter surpasses the legitimate heiress in talent." Grandmother proudly introduced me to the ladies of various households. Upon hearing this, my half-sister stormed into Rongha Hall and caused a scene. "You treat that concubine's daughter like a precious treasure. Yet you forget, only I, the legitimate daughter, can secure alliances and protection for the Guan family. Few young ladies in the entire capital hold a status more respectable than mine. If you continue to favor that lowly Biyun, I shall announce to all of Beijing that the Guan family mistreats its legitimate daughter who lost her mother." Grandmother was so enraged her hands trembled. "I raised you all these years, only to see you turn out like this." My half-sister had driven grandmother to illness. I stayed by her bedside, tending to her for 2 full days until exhaustion finally overtook me. When I awoke again, grandmother had regained consciousness. My half-sister smiled smugly. "Dr. Liang, explain why grandmother lay unconscious for 2 days." Only then did I notice a physician standing in the room. Dr. Liang held a bowl of medicine and explained, "This concoction contained cotton seeds. In proper doses, they can cure illness, but an overdose proves fatal. Fortunately, the eldest daughter discovered it in time. Had the old lady consumed this medicine for 2 more days, even a divine being descended from heaven could not have saved her." Father looked shaken. "Thank you, Dr. Liang. But who could have poisoned her?" My younger sister declared with certainty, "It must have been Biyun. She knows a great deal about herbs. Just the other day, she added herbs to grandmother's medicine. The maids and servants all know it. These past 2 days, she was the only one constantly by grandmother's side, helping her take the medicine. Who else could it be?" Father turned to me. "Still lying in bed, did you do it?" I shook my head. "I don't understand, Father. All I know is that grandmother has been utterly exhausted these past 2 days. She was so upset by eldest sister that her health weakened. Yet she refused to take her medicine and slept for 2 whole days." "She didn't take her medicine?" Father asked. I nodded and pointed to the flower pot beside me. Grandmother didn't want father to worry, so she ordered all the medicine poured into the flower pot. The soil in that pot was indeed soaked through, and the flowers had begun to wilt. Just then, grandmother hobbled over with her cane. "Who dares bully my dearest granddaughter? These past 2 days, she's neglected her own meals and sleep to care for this old woman. It was my stubbornness that refused the medicine. Don't blame her." With grandmother speaking for herself, the situation became crystal clear. Father turned and struck my half-sister across the face. "Your grandmother never took any medicine. How could you possibly know she was poisoned? How could you be certain it was Biyun who laced it? And you even brought a physician to the house to help you? What a remarkable feat." My half-sister stammered, unable to explain. Grandmother dismissed everyone else from the room, pointing coldly at my half-sister, "Kneel." Then she embraced me tenderly. "My Shanyu. My Yu. You've suffered so much." Father stared at us, utterly bewildered. Seeing his expression, grandmother's anger flared. She struck his back with her cane. "You kneel too. You can't even recognize your own daughter." I didn't know what had happened, but I was certain, Shan Yu and Bai Yun had switched bodies. Only my precious little girl knew I still cherished the book father left behind in my childhood. Only she knew about that wooden door in the mansion, to let her play outside without worry. I had vines planted to hide that door from view. My little girl knew I hated the bitterness of medicine, so she'd prepare dragon beard candy for me. She knew I couldn't eat almond pastries, but loved osmanthus sugar cakes most of all. She, a child I'd pampered and doted on since infancy, now trapped in this little brat's body, still thinks only of how to protect me day after day, never once considering herself. Now look at this little vixen. She's taken over her body, committing all sorts of wicked deeds, acting arrogant and tyrannical, plotting daily how to harm my little girl. Father sat stunned for a long time, running through the recent events one by one before slumping to the ground. How could this be? Seeing the truth could no longer be concealed. The younger sister adopted a devil-may-care attitude. This body swap wasn't my choice. But now that I'm the eldest daughter of the Prime Minister's household and betrothed to the Marquis family, you must treat me as your legitimate daughter. You must properly arrange my wedding. Otherwise, my disgrace will be the Prime Minister's household's disgrace. Father raised his hand several times. But in the end, it fell. Even if he beat her to death, what good would it do? Besides, I didn't want her to die so easily. My half-sister was confined to her quarters once more, this time guarded by Father's most trusted confidants. The entire Prime Minister's residence was sealed tight. Father now dared not let her marry into the Marquis's household. Should anything happen in the future, it would likely bring ruin upon the entire Guan family. Father grew increasingly troubled by this, his figure visibly wasting away. At this critical juncture, Aunt Zhao, Bai Yun's birth mother, came calling. I hear the second young miss is now favored in the mansion, cherished by both the old lady and master. Given this, master ought to consider bringing me back to the household. Earlier, the master said he would elevate me to a favored concubine. Now that second young miss's reputation shines brightly. For her future sake, as her birth mother, the master ought to reconsider. Once a renowned dancer in the capital, her figure was enchanting. Within moments of speaking, she had already draped herself over Father's arm, cooing sweet nothings. Father couldn't resist the charms of her tender embrace and brought concubine Zhao back to the estate. But Father didn't know concubine Zhao had long been aware that Bai Yun and I had swapped bodies. So upon returning to the estate, the first thing she did was seek out my younger half-sister. But now that my younger half-sister was confined to her quarters, she couldn't see her at all. However, she was clever. She pretended to be a servant delivering food and managed to meet with my younger half-sister. What exactly mother and daughter discussed remains unknown. Only this much is clear: after the servant departed, my half-sister smashed many things. The young lady spoke truly. She now considers herself the legitimate daughter, utterly disregarding me. I nearly suffered a beating at her hands. Aunt Zhao met me at the tea house, revealing the claw marks on her arm. My heart is utterly broken. I'd hoped that once my daughter became the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's household, she'd care for me, her own mother. But this is how it turned out. I'm only grateful that the young lady now acknowledges me as Bai Yun's mother. I smiled as I sipped my tea, watching the woman before me, the one who conspired with Bai Yun to kill our grandmother and then sold me off. My heart burned with hatred, wishing I could cut her into 1,000 pieces. I had Gu Yuanshan send word to Auntie Zhao. The second young lady knows about the identity swap and is willing to treat you as her own mother. You may enter the Prime Minister's residence and seek out the master. As for your biological daughter, don't even think about it. She'd likely consider you a burden. Auntie Zhao naturally didn't believe it. Her first act upon entering the residence was to seek out her daughter, only to find her locked away. Instead, her daughter turned the tables, blackmailing her to find a way to secure her release. Furious and desperate, she came to seek refuge with me. Rest assured, Madam, I said, now that I am Bai Yun, this identity is unlikely to change. As long as you remain loyal to me, you may not only become a favored concubine but even a co-wife. Who knows? Perhaps this entire mansion will one day be managed by your hands. My promises moved Madame Zhao to tears of gratitude. To prove her loyalty, she went to see her half-sister again. She made it clear, "You've lost your standing in the Prime Minister's household. I am Bai Yun's mother. And from now on, you and I have no connection." After saying this, Aunt Zhao happily came to me to take credit, unaware that her half-sister was determined to go down fighting. Her half-sister threatened to slit her wrists, forcing their father and grandmother to see her. "Just marry me off to the Marquis's household," she demanded. "Provide me with a sufficient dowry, and I promise never to trouble you again." After all, if word got out about her and me swapping bodies, no one would believe it. To outsiders, I would always remain the legitimate daughter of the Guan family. Naturally, father refused. If she can cause such chaos in our household now, imagine the trouble she'd stir up in the Marquis's estate. She'd bring ruin upon the entire Guan family. Seeing father's silence, the younger sister grew impatient and threatened. "Let's each compromise, it's best for everyone. I only want to marry into the Marquis's estate. If you refuse, I'll file a complaint with the imperial court." "Father, you likely don't know this, but my mother, your beloved consort Zhao, is the daughter of a convicted minister. 25 years ago, the Qin family was executed and their estate confiscated. She alone survived, forced to become a dancer in the entertainment quarters just to stay alive. Father, do you know what punishment the emperor might impose for harboring the daughter of a traitor?" Father's expression darkened, while grandmother nearly fainted from rage. The secret Bai Yun revealed in her past life to remain in the Prime Minister's household now became the very weapon used to threaten it in this life. Madame Zhao could never have imagined that her only daughter, the one she clung to for survival, would betray her in pursuit of wealth and status. Father remained silent for a long time before sighing. He had the concubine's daughter and Madame Zhao confined separately. Upon returning to Ronghe Hall, father and grandmother wore expressions of deep sorrow. "Father, if you fear you cannot account for this to the Marquis's household, why not send her to a nunnery? That way, we preserve the family's reputation and dignity. Plus, with someone watching over her, we needn't worry about her causing further trouble. After all, she's now even trying to drag the entire family down with her." As for concubine Zhao, I imagine father was deceived in the past. Now that we know her true identity, it's best to cut the weeds at the root and eliminate future troubles. I suggested. Father quickly accepted my suggestion. The death of a concubine in the Prime Minister's household was insignificant. But if the legitimate daughter died, it would indeed cause a scandal. Better to send her to the nunnery for confinement first. Concubine Zhao was beaten to death. Even in her final moments, she was still dreaming in her sleep of becoming an equal wife. My younger sister was also sent overnight to the nunnery beside the Guan family estate. The next day, father personally went to the Marquis's residence to return the betrothal gifts. "My daughter has been possessed by evil spirits and insists on becoming a nun. We simply cannot stop her." The Marquis's household inquired and confirmed the younger sister was indeed at the convent. With no other recourse, they had no choice but to accept it. Better this than having her cause trouble by demanding to become a nun after the marriage. But Meng Tingyu remained undeterred, still seeking to form an alliance with the Prime Minister's household. Since the legitimate daughter has entered the convent, my Marquis's household does not disdain the concubine's daughter. Moreover, she possesses heavenly beauty, literary talent, and a fine reputation. If the Prime Minister's household truly feels indebted to us, why not marry the concubine's daughter to me? I shall grant her the position of principal wife. Father, upon hearing this, was overjoyed and hurried back to share the good news with me. How splendid! Even with the change in status, this marriage remains destined. It is written in the stars that you are to marry into the Marquis's household. I had always thought father was cold-hearted and ignorant, but I never imagined he was also so foolish. After swapping bodies with Biyun, I saw clearly that Meng Tingyu was no good man. He kept a mistress outside, And that mistress was now pregnant. Did father expect me to tire myself out managing his household affairs after marriage? Father looked utterly perplexed. Most men have multiple wives and concubines, especially someone of his standing as the Marquis's heir apparent. Once he holds his title, what's wrong with keeping a few mistresses? After all, the position of main wife is yours. Suddenly, I lost all desire to argue with him. I should have realized long ago, a man who keeps mistresses himself. How much could he possibly understand a woman? Fine. If he wants to marry me, let him come and tell me himself. News of Meng Tingyu's decision to marry the second daughter of the Guan family soon spread far and wide. When the maids came to inform me, I knew immediately that Meng Tingyu had spread the rumor himself. He wanted to ruin my reputation to force me into marriage. But I've lived this life twice now. Reputation is nothing. All I care about is whether I can live peacefully this lifetime. Whether a few people are safe, like grandmother. Like Gu Yuanshan. When I rushed to Green Bamboo Pavilion, Gu Yuanshan wasn't there. His attendant told me he'd been selling properties lately. And today he was off to sell the one on West Street. An unprecedented wave of anxiety surged through me. He was selling his homes, he intended to leave the capital. He must have heard about the incident with Meng Tingyu and felt utterly disappointed in me. I hurried to West Street and saw him smiling as he waved farewell to the buyers. When he turned and saw me, his face lit up with surprise, followed by a look of heartache. Miss Guan, I've heard everything. The Meng family refuses to call off the engagement and instead insists on marrying you as a second choice. I hurriedly explained. These are merely Meng Tingyu's wishes. I understand, he said. I imagine Minister Guan would not refuse, but instead pressure you to agree. That would be too unfair to you. These past days, I've sold all 3 properties I'd accumulated over the years, exchanging them for silver. Though not much, it should suffice for living. I still own an old estate in the countryside near Jinling, tended by a few maidservants, nestled by mountains and water. It's peaceful and pleasant. You could take this silver and seek refuge there. Wait out this period before deciding whether to return to the capital. So he had been planning for me all along. He had laid out a path for my future. When mother was still alive, she once said, if you meet a man who stirs your heart, don't let him slip away. She confessed that though she married into a prestigious family as its matriarch, her life felt utterly hollow. She bitterly regretted being bound by the constraints of wifely duty back then, never having taken the initiative to grasp the hand of the man she loved and let him lead her away. Mother always knew father had a mistress. But what could she do? What man doesn't? She had to pretend ignorance, to be magnanimous, to be praised as virtuous. I used to believe I'd never meet someone who would take me away. But today, I want to cast aside every rule and every constraint. I just want to tell Gu Yuanshan, let's go to that little courtyard nestled by the mountains and waters together. So I wrapped my arms around his waist, pressing my face tightly against his chest. I could hear his heartbeat growing faster and faster. Mr. Gu, the mansion by Jinling's city walls is beautiful. But I want to go with you. We'll fish together, grow melons and vegetables, raise 2 little dogs, plant a crabapple tree in the yard. You'll write while I brew tea, you'll steam rice while I paint. Our days might not be lavish, but I want to be with you. I didn't cry. Yet a tear fell from my cheek. I looked up to see tears welling in Gu Yuanshan's eyes. His lips trembling slightly. Am I dreaming? You're the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's household. How could you possibly? I smiled as I wiped his tears. The legitimate daughter has already been sent to a nunnery. Soon, she will die. I am merely a concubine's daughter, not yet recorded in the family registry. This lifetime, my identity is mine to define. Gu Yuanshan closed his eyes upon hearing this. Yet tears streamed down his face. He held me tightly. as if afraid I might vanish the next moment. As long as I can be with you, I'll be content anywhere. Meng Tingyu sent a note requesting an audience. Since you insist I speak in person, I shall ensure you are satisfied. But I changed the meeting place to a country estate on the outskirts. On the day Meng Tingyu arrived, I deliberately had my younger half-sister brought out, let her meet the crown prince, lest he think our prime minister's household deceived the marquise. My half-sister's hair had been shaved clean, and she wore plain robes. Upon seeing Meng Tingyu, she threw herself at him, clinging and sobbing, "Did you come for me? Our wedding is near." But Meng Tingyu cut her off. "I've come to propose to Miss Bian. Our betrothal is null and void." Minister Guan personally came to the marquis residence to dissolve this match. My younger sister froze. How could that be? I'm the legitimate daughter. She's a concubine's child. How could he marry her? How could she compare to me? Meng Tingyu sneered coldly, though Miss Bian is a concubine's daughter. She is pure and virtuous. It would not be an exaggeration to call her the capital's most beautiful woman. Moreover, she excels in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. As for you, you possess only the status of a legitimate daughter. Yet you are utterly useless. After speaking, Meng Tingyu handed me the list of betrothal gifts. Miss Bian, I sincerely seek your hand in marriage. This is the list of betrothal gifts. Please review it. I vow that once you enter the marquis's household, I shall treat you with sincerity and reverence. My half-sister was utterly dumbfounded. In my past life, she resented my birthright to snatch Meng Tingyu and become the marquis's principal wife. She schemed relentlessly to kill both me and our grandmother. In this life, she became the legitimate daughter. Yet why did Meng Tingyu ultimately seek to marry me? She couldn't understand. She had become Guan Shanyu, the legitimate daughter of the prime minister's household envied by thousands. Why couldn't she possess what I once had? I watched her eyes darken. She laughed as she lunged forward, snatching the betrothal list. Like a possessed being, she recited the gifts listed, then tore the paper to shreds in a fit of madness. She threw her head back and laughed. Becoming a nun is good. Becoming a nun is good. It's the right thing to do. I sighed. Raised outside the mansion for over a decade, she encountered a mother of limited vision. Her narrow perspective could only see the small plot of land before her, blind to the towering mountains and vast rivers beyond. In the end, she was trapped in this shallow pond, sinking and drowning, over and over. Before the servants could drag my half-sister away, she lunged at Meng Tingyu and clawed his face. Meng Tingyu, you faithless scoundrel! I curse you to die a gruesome death. My half-sister had lost her mind. In the nunnery, she lashed out at anyone who crossed her path. I used this to decline Meng Tingyu's marriage proposal. I simply cannot bear to watch my elder sister suffer so. She chose to enter the convent for your sake. How could I possibly marry into the marquis's household with a clear conscience? Father tried to persuade me further, but grandmother struck him with her cane. That Meng Tingyu is nothing but a philanderer. If you truly cherish my daughter, if you care that she's lost her legitimate status, then let her live joyfully. If this prime minister's residence is too rigid to accommodate my daughter, this old woman will take her back to Liuzhou and spare you the trouble. As for taking concubines in the future, do as you please. Father dared not mention it again and could only agree. I arranged for someone to recite the betrothal gift list Meng Tingyu had sent that day before my younger sister daily. I also had someone recount how consort Zhao was beaten to death. 6 days later, word came from the nunnery. She refused food and drink, spending her days in a dazed stupor. Leave her be. Return only to deliver this message. From the moment she stepped into this mansion, every action she took was under my control and guidance. 3 days after that, my younger sister died. They say she was utterly deranged before her death. muttering that I was the legitimate daughter. Her lips were cracked, her eyes vacant. She died on a rainy night. She stood in the courtyard dancing. Mother used to dance like this, she murmured. Her dancing was the most beautiful. And then, as she danced, she breathed her last. After hearing the report, Father merely sighed. She was never fit to stand upright. Grandmother entrusted me with full authority to handle the matter. Just bury her in some remote mountain, she said. In this lifetime, the debts and grievances between us are settled. Grandmother, your granddaughter wishes to take you to Jinling. There, I have found someone who captures my heart. After all matters are concluded, I pleaded with grandmother. Grandmother stroked my tousled hair with a tender smile. Very well. This capital city is indeed rather dull. We'll go there and live out our days in leisure. Father was extremely reluctant. If you both leave, I'll be the only one left in this household. I laughed. Father, you're mistaken. You still have several concubines and 5 or 6 illegitimate sons. Tomorrow, you could elevate one concubine to become your formal wife, or take another formal wife. You could even have a legitimate son and daughter. You'll never be alone. Besides, the Prime Minister's legitimate daughter, Guan Shangyue, is dead. Never before had I felt such profound gratitude to the heavens as I did then, for no longer being Guan Shangyue, bound by the shackles of arranged marriages and the Prime Minister's legacy. At last, I could shed the weight of my clan's reputation in future, and truly live for myself. On a sunlit morning, my grandmother and I rode in a carriage toward Jinling. Inside, she solemnly handed me a red box. This is the dowry your mother and I prepared for you. Outside the carriage, Gu Yuanshan drove the horses while singing. He entrusted his bookshop to a friend, telling him, before, I was alone. Now I have my beloved and my grandmother to care for. When my future wife grows weary of Jinling, perhaps we'll return. Grandmother adored life in Jinling. Freed from the constant visits of distinguished guests and the burdens of managing a large household, she spent her days basking in the sun in the courtyard, cradling her lazy cat. Miraculously, most of her ailments faded away. Gu Yuanshan opened a new study hall, naming it Moon-Chasing Pavilion. In the front courtyard, scholars studied and savored tea. In the back, he taught rural children to read, still sheltering many homeless youngsters. Each day I helped him manage the academy. In our free moments, we chatted about everything under the sun. I ground ink while he wrote, he made pigments while I painted. Our days were quiet yet filled with happiness. On an auspicious day chosen by grandmother, we were married. We vowed to spend our lives together, living joyfully and freely. Mother, I want to hear more of your and father's love story, past lives and present. Mother, I want to hear tales of the capital. Mother, brother snatched my drawing paper. I smiled, gathered the 3 children close, and whispered, Shoo, let's go play outside and let great-grandmother rest. Grandmother always grew drowsy in spring, yet she couldn't bear to part with these little rascals. Day after day, she watched them until sleep overtook her. The children tiptoed after me into the courtyard. My youngest daughter held a book in her hands. Mother, grandmother said she'll teach me to read this tomorrow. She said it even has annotations left by great-grandfather. I pinched my daughter's little cheek. Very well. As the sun grew blinding, my husband returned, carrying a food box. Today we have your favorite stuffed spare ribs. Hurry and wake great-grandmother, they bought her favorite osmanthus sugar cakes today. The children cheered and ran inside to call grandmother. I watched the man before me, standing beneath my beloved crabapple tree, and in a daze, memories of a past life surfaced. Thank goodness. Thank goodness everything is well now. The end.